My dream was always to have a little ranch, and I always wanted to live in Montana, and so I literally saw that dream come to fruition. I bought a 70-acre ranch in Great Falls, Montana, and I wanted to raise horses because I thought that I knew everything there was to be about horses. You know, I thought I'm a cowboy. I know about horses, you know what I mean? And so you think you know a lot about horses until you move to Montana. Because everybody in Montana is a stinking horse whisperer. You know what I mean? They're like, you see the way that horse is standing? I'm like, yeah. Is that he's thinking about, you know, pepper or something. You know what I mean? Like they know stuff. And I'm like, I think he's just trying to go to the potty. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like they can see the way he licks his lip and the way he turns his ear and the way he's just, and I'm like, I know nothing about horses. You could literally write an encyclopedia set on what I don't know. That's how I felt. And I'll never forget, I went to this auction, and I'm like, you know what, I want to raise paint horses. And I got a certain amount of money that I want to go and I want to spend on this broodmare that's a paint horse, broodmare, right? I've always just loved paint horses, and I'm so ignorant, I thought I could make a living at it. And so I go to the auction, right? And I'm like a 12-year-old boy standing there as the horses are coming. I'm like, oh, that one's, wow. You know what I mean? That's pretty. You know what I mean? Look how big that horse is, you know? And they're doing all that hamming. I'm like, hey, I don't know. You know? And what I notice as I'm standing there, not knowing nothing, I'm like, look how he's walking. That's a pretty horse, the way that horse walks, you know? And then I'm like, oh, she's tall. You know what I'm saying? Just stupid things. And about the time I look up in the audience at all the real cowboys, and ain't none of them looking at the horses. I'm like, what are they looking? And I know they're looking in a book. So I'm like, go give me one of those books. You know what's in the book? The bloodline. The bloodline. That's what they're looking at, because guess this. Come on, get this. The value of the horse has nothing to do with what it looks like, what it walks like, what it, you know, it's not about its appearance on the outside at all. It's about what courses through their veins. That there's champion in those veins. So I find this I'm not going to tell you the breed because you think I'm stupid, but I found this certain champion horse with the most incredible bloodline. And I had brought a certain amount of money. I spent every dime I got. I went to the deep well of my bank account and bought this certain horse with this champion bloodline. I paid everything I got for this champion horse that somebody didn't tell the horse that it was a champion. There was nothing about that horse's acting like or walking like or looking like a champion. She was just running around in circles, and I put her in my round pen, and she was the most terrible horse I've ever been around. All she's doing is putting her head out around the round pen. She put her head out of the round pen and put her rear to me the whole time. And on purpose. This is like totally intentional. Like, I'm looking at this horse, I'm like, oh! And I started getting mad. We're talking about days in the round pen. And I started getting mad. I started kind of yelling at the horse, don't you know? Don't you know who you are? Even as I said it, I could feel the Spirit of God on that. Don't you know who you are? I'm like, you have champion in you. You've been called for something. There's something great on the inside of you. And you're just running around in circles, showing me your rear end. Sound familiar? I literally, from the deepest part of me, was so angry at this horse, I yelled at this horse, don't you know what price was paid for you? Ooh, Lord. The horse was like, nope. I'm going to do what I want to do the way I want to do it. And if you don't like it, kill me. Yeah, that's how I felt, you know. I'm like, you about to be glue, you know. I started having this conversation with God in the middle of my round pen. I started singing this song in the middle of this round pen. I was singing, oh, how I love Jesus. Oh, how I love Jesus. Oh, how I love Jesus. Because he first loved me. To me, he is so wonderful, and I love him. To me, he is so wonderful. Oh, to me, he is so wonderful, because he first loved me. And as I was just singing that song, and I just realized that, you know what God did for me? Is he waited in the middle of my round pen. He didn't quit on me. He didn't give up on me. He didn't give the spur to me. He didn't sell me to the glue factory. You know what I'm saying? He waited for me to what? To quit running. And as I ended just singing that song, because I began to have this revelation of how good he's been to me, and that he waited all those years of me just running in circles and showing my rear end. He waited on me. He's got time. Go ahead, take another lap. You want to do it your way, go ahead. And I just got so caught up in singing that and worshiping him. I just got into a real spirit of worship in the middle of that arena. And all of a sudden I looked up, and that horse had stopped running. And she was kind of parallel against the round pen, and her ears were just hooked right on me. She's sitting there just licking her lips, but she's looking out this way. All of a sudden, that horse just whirled around and just stared at me, both ears forward. And it was like she was screaming at me, man, what do you want with me? And I realized in that moment that that's the greatest question you could ask. What do you want? Because I'm the one that knows the plans that I have for her. I know what's in her. I have her destiny in my hand. I have her purpose. I have her life in my hands. And I know what it's going to take to pull up out of her greatness. And it just makes common sense, doesn't it? To turn to the master to find out, what do you want with me? I found out later what that's called is facing up. The horse faced up to me. And then we had a meet-up. And then it started the journey. And I want to say this to you. Life doesn't even begin until you have that face-up moment. Think about it. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how young you are. Until you come to a place where you turn and face the Master, the Father, and then asking, what do you want with me? Because see, the thing is you believe in God, right? Come on, I didn't mean to go here right now, but you believe in God. You believe that he created you, right? You believe he did it on purpose, right? So if you believe in God, you believe he created you, and he did it intentionally, you've got to ask yourself why. Do you think it's to run around in circles showing your rear? Or do you think maybe you might have a purpose? Maybe there's something inside of you that needs to be brought out of you. Maybe there's a mission in your life. Maybe you're supposed to be a part of something. And maybe just doing your own thing isn't the answer.